I was thinking as I read this about, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, I was at a mass, and I want to say it was even a daily mass, if that, and some friends of ours were there with their little ones, and their little one was not having the greatest day, banging on the pew or whatever, and Father just gave a scowling look from the altar, and then after mass sort of scolded them. Well, they never came back after that. They went somewhere else, and to this day, they remember that very vividly, how unwelcome they felt at the slightest, instance of noise or whatever. This is a real problem for families.
It is, and I didn't have something as dramatic as that happen to me, although, no, there are a lot of occasions that you bring your little ones, your toddlers to church, and, they act up or they're loud or they bang on a pew or something like that. And it's momentary, but, you feel like everybody hears it and everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, do I feel welcome here? Just on a bigger level, just hearing the sermon, hearing the music, the whole experience of going to Mass. It changes a lot when you have kids. When you become a parent, you experience it much differently than you do when you're just a single person trying to understand everything.
Oh, it was a couple of things you wrote in there that I just chuckled at. One was how, single people will sit at the end of the pew, making it harder for moms and dads with their crying kid to get out of the pew as fast as possible to avoid the embarrassment of the situation. I mean, I just thought that was hilarious because how true that is.
No, that was the main inspiration for the article. Maybe that's bad to say, but every time I go to Mass, doesn't seem to matter what parish it is, they are always at the end of the pew and in the back pews too, and I'm like, why? So you see this chasm, this wide open space right after them. And to me, that's just, I can only think, well, they want to get out quickly, and it's convenient to them. And no, I think I really wish that other parishioners, and I'll say the same for myself before I had kids. I don't think I was really that cognizant of it, but they need to realize that, okay, there are other people here, and there are other people who have kids, or they might bring their parents or something who might be elderly. So I'm going to make it easy for them, and I'll be in the middle. I'll be in the middle. I'll be up front, so that they can have easy access in and out of the pew. Just kind of common courtesy and kind of awareness of spatial awareness that's really lacking, and it's never addressed by the priest, never addressed by church organizations or anything like that.
Yeah, and the thing I was thinking about while reading your article over crisismagazine.com is how new parents, first time newborn babies, they just the slightest whimper and they're like, oh, gotta get up, gotta walk out. And I just laugh. I'm like, it's fine. It'll be okay. They're not really disturbing anybody. But nonetheless, as new parents, you feel very intimidated by the slightest noise and disruption.
Well, and I think a lot of that is kind of the messaging of the priest and the church, of the parish. And I think I've only heard one sermon in my entire life as a Catholic, and I'm 37, so I've been going for years and years and years. And so I think I've heard one sermon where the priest actually explained what's the proper protocol if you have a squirming or crying kid. He said, okay, wait 7 seconds. If they don't settle down within 7 seconds, sure, get up, go walk around, or go to the cry room or whatever. But, and that was invaluable. I didn't have kids at the time. I think I was like a teenager or something, and I was hearing something like this. But I've never heard anything like that. And I think that to me is like, well, why don't we address this? We have announcements about potlucks. We have announcements about this. We have sermons about some stuff that's pretty abstract, but we never have any kind of thing to tell parents and parishioners, hey, this is how to act if you're a parent. This is how to act if you're not a parent, but you see other people like that. Make room for them and all that kind of thing. It's like, how easy would that be? But it doesn't even dawn on anyone to say something like that.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why this happens so often where the priest or not doesn't talk about this kind of thing is because anytime a priest brings up kids or brings up family life and things like that, he always gets the parent that comes out afterwards and be like, "Father, you don't have any kids. How can you talk to me about what I should or shouldn't be doing in the pew with my kids?" So what do you think about the disposition that the laity should have whenever a priest does bring this topic up?
Well, you'll hear that sometimes, just from non-Catholics mostly, or either they're Protestant or they're just kind of secularists, and they'll just say, "Well, priests can't understand my situation because they're not married or they don't have kids." I mean, to me, that's the same kind of argument as saying, "Well, so you're not going to go to a doctor because they don't have cancer like you." Or you're not going to go to you're not going to go to a teacher because they're not ignorant and haven't done the stuff like you. So I mean, I think we can understand if a priest has wisdom to impart. I mean, and they are spiritual fathers. They can say a thing or two about it. I mean, of course, you want to be sensitive as a priest or pastor. Just trying to explain, what are the rules and all that. And I think there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
To me, I think that the big challenge is, you want to welcome parents, you want to welcome families.
Hold that thought right there.
Yeah, well, and it's counterintuitive too, because in a traditional parish, and I attend one when I can. I mean, most of the time, and they, well, it seems more strict, it seems more solemn, it seems more serious. So how would it be good for, parents and little kids? But I think the big thing is that, well, first you have a lot more families. I mean, it's just a demographic kind of thing. I mean, it's just usually a much younger audience and much bigger families. And so you'll have, all ages being represented, not just the elderly or the middle-aged, which is different from another sort of parish where really, you're the exception if you do have little kids. And that's an issue of its own. But I also think that in a traditional parish, or TLM, traditional land mass parish, they don't pander. And so that's what I was kind of getting at before the commercial break, was that there's a difference between, welcoming a person and pandering to them. And I think the church has kind of resorted to pandering to young people and maybe young parents with the music, with maybe some of the sermons and stuff like that, and some of the aesthetics. And whereas in a traditional Latin Mass parish, they don't do that at all, and it actually feels more welcoming. They take you seriously, and they preserve this liturgy and just kind of the beauty of it, and it still could be spiritual and still can be something real, for the person going. So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, and even your children, even young children, are impressed by it. And I think there's more done with the senses, just what you're smelling, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, that engages the kid, or it maybe not doesn't engage them, but helps them understand you are in a sacred space. And so you don't act up. I mean, they'll still act up, but maybe not as much as they would in a church where they're singing happy birthday and they're clapping and that kind of thing.
Just about a decade ago, my family and I were contemplating switching to another parish, one that was more traditional. And we were attending a mass down there, and one of our little ones was making some noise. I would say not too bad, but making some noise. The usher walked straight up to my child, not even to me or to my wife, and shushed them in front of us. And I was incredibly offended by that. I was really put off. I could not believe that they would do that. And I think it demonstrates kind of what you're talking about, that how there's a balance act in all of this. You don't want to, I always, with my kids, I try to get them to behave and be respectful of those around who are trying to pray, and to be focused on the sacrifice of the Holy Mass, and how incredibly selfish it would be for us to interfere with that. And so we work on that. It's a process, but at the same time, I'm also very tolerable of everybody around us. I mean, as we just said, it's amazing how much we can tolerate when we just offer it up. And yet a lot of these churches, they simply they don't understand that balance, and it does feel very off-putting.
Yeah, and I think it's this understanding. Well, and I think about the deeper issue here. It's like, how do you identify as a Catholic? And I think, in the old days, I would say 50 years ago plus, Catholics identified as family people. Your parents, you have kids, and so you kind of spoke to people in that mode. I think nowadays we kind of identify ourselves as like autonomous adults without really many attachments. Even parents, unless you have a lot of kids. That's actually kind of the joke too. It's like, if you have one kid, you still act like you're, a childless couple, and you can kind of get away with doing most of what you did before you had kids. But once you start having 2 kids or 3 kids, and more than that, then you'll start thinking more as a parent. So no, for sure it's a balancing act, but I think a lot of it is tied to identity. How are you seeing other Catholics? I think in the old days you saw them as other, parents just trying to, raise families and kind of living sacrificial lives. And so you're willing to be more charitable and more patient. But if you're looking at yourself as autonomous adults in the suburbs, upper middle class or whatever, you start to have less patience for that kind of thing, and you don't understand children too well, and you don't know how to communicate certain expectations. And so everything just feels offensive.
You know what I found very odd when I first started seeing this happen? I started going to a parish that exclusively does the traditional Latin Mass, and one thing that I noticed I just thought that was the weirdest thing, was that people would take other people's kids and just walk off with them. And I was like, wait, what? What are they doing with that person's kid? That person's not related to them. Wait, that person, they're not related to them. And they'll just go up, and one of the families will have 8 to 9 kids, and one of the just random lady will come up and be like, oh, here, I'll take your kid, and just walks off with the kid. And I'm like, where's she going? Why are they letting her walk off with that kid? And I started, as the longer I was there, I realized that the people just became so tight-knit, and they love babies, they love children, a lot of these older parents, and even some of the younger kids that are 15, 16, they'll just go up and they'll just take care of the kids during Mass to help the parents out. And I was blown away by that. I didn't comprehend it at the time, and I just think it's amazing. Have you noticed that, and what do you think about that?
That sounds awesome. I'll see that. My wife and I, we're very envious of people who have that kind of help. And a lot of times that's usually how it works. You're always wondering, like, how do these big families do it when they have more than 5 kids? And the age range is so much. And what they do is usually the elder kids will act as kind of childcare, will help with childcare and help with the little ones. And they love to, for them, it's new and fun and exciting. Or also they'll be close with their parents or their siblings, who are also adults, and they can take care of the kids. So I think the family dynamic is much more at work. And I think that's the way things were in the past, even Jesus gets lost in the temple. You're like, Mary, Joseph, how'd you lose your kid? But I think it was that same kind of environment where, everybody knew each other, and you had a lot of extended family, and you could kind of trust other adults to watch your kids. And it's a great thing. It's a huge, immense relief for parents. And really, as the Catholic Church, I think a lot of parishes try to really get back to that instead of, and I think COVID's hurt that a lot too. I think you have to insert that all the time. When we're having these conversations, it's just COVID has made people very distrustful of each other. People don't want to shake your hand. I'm still kind of encountering that too. That was another inspiration for my article, is that, you do the sign of peace at a Novus Ordo kind of Mass, and, they'll just wave at you or do the peace sign and look at you uncomfortably, or they'll be wearing their mask still. And so, you can just you just feel it. Okay, I get it. I'm not clean or something. I'm a leper, I guess. So, no, I think that's a great story. I think and that's true. You really do start having, these family units extended beyond just the, blood relations or just direct family. You start having extended family, or you start having neighbors, and really you're returning to what the church used to be or what a church community used to be, where people really were connected. And children do that. I mean, that's the beauty of a family, is that children bring people together, even people that don't have kids themselves. They can come in and help, either giving gifts or watching the kids and, establishing those relationships.
We have just about a minute and a half left here with Auguste Meyrat about his article. What would you say, Auguste, to a parish, to a priest, pastor, about how they might be more family friendly here? What could they do to increase family friendliness?
I think try to be more welcoming and try to be less pandering. And remember that these are people in your parish, and I think you always want to defer to parents and defer and respect the sacrifice that they have taken on by having kids, because it is not a popular thing nowadays. They're giving up a lot. They're being discouraged a lot in every other, most other spaces and all that. So I would say welcome those parents, speak to them, speak about them, always show that you care and respect for them, and try to think of programs and ways to facilitate, going to Mass and developing a spiritual life, get the dads together, get the moms together, try to build up that community and speak to them. Just even sermons about this stuff, and avoid pandering. Don't do the Christian rock. Don't do the cheesy hymns. Just do normal stuff. Take them seriously. And that would be kind of just what I'd encourage.
Mm-hmm. Wow, we're just about out of time here, and I was just thinking about the things that we have done as a family to help our kids be better behaved at Holy Mass, not bringing food, limiting toys, and if I have to remove them, I don't let them down. I don't let them run around. We don't go to the cry room and run around. I will hold them. The fastest way to getting to sit next to mommy is behavior. That's the lesson I always taught our kids. That, and I guess Benadryl and duct tape works like a charm every time. I'm teasing. I don't actually
Just a little bit of tequila.
No, don't do any of that. No, I'm teasing. But nonetheless, Auguste Meyrat, we're grateful for your time today. God bless you. Thanks for your article. Thanks for chiming in on this important subject.
Yeah, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. You can check out his article over at crisismagazine.com. That's crisismagazine.com. Auguste Meyrat, Meyrat. Great stuff. He's got a whole bunch of articles over there, by the way, I'd recommend. All right, that's going to do it for hour number one. If you can join us in the second hour, I would surely love to have you on board. David L. Gray is going to join us, and he's got an article coming out from 1 Peter 5 that deals with a bit of history, infiltration in the church, 300 years of changing attitudes, Freemasons, and so much more. Join us if you can. Go to grnonline.com/CDT. Otherwise, we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.